Hi, and welcome to Fortum Australia's Shift Work and Daily Routines, the Balancing Act presentation. My name is Kiralee, and I'm one of Fortum Australia's senior clinicians, as well as being an exercise physiologist. Our goals for today are to help you discover how to build healthy routines and to navigate that work-life balance or that work-life commitment. I would also like to help you develop some strategies to consider when reviewing your current routines, what might help balance these complexities of your shift work life. So what we're going to dive into is looking at how does shift work implement or impact your health and well-being? What research or interventions are there to help assist you in developing new routines? But what are some practical examples or tips for shift workers in maintaining and developing these new healthy or balanced routines? So you might be wondering, who am I? Like I said before, I'm an exercise physiologist and I've got over 10 years experience working with first responders. I'm a big fan of investigating and implementing health and well-being lifestyle interventions, as well as engaging my first responder community in involving themselves in these healthy well-being ways of life. I also love physical activity. I'm a big fan of outdoors kind of activities, sports, and I love trying new things. However, more recently, I've learned that you actually do need to slow down sometimes. So I've started to do yoga, and I've also learned the importance of reading and just some downtime. So really learning to balance out even myself with some high adrenaline activities, but also to really kind of slow that self down and to rewind and unwind at the same time. So what does this balancing act look like? We've got this work-life balance that we have to try and manage whilst on shift. Now, what is it that most shift workers crave? We want to have that unlimited time with our family. We want to have the feeling of not feeling perpetually tired. We want to feel like we can contribute to society or our families or our social lives. But we also know that we have to do our job. Now, unfortunately, we do need 24/7 workers around Australia and internationally. And what that means is that there are people like yourself as first responders who are going to be needed to work over the clock. So when managing this work-life balance, what we want to do is we want to see whether or not we can achieve the ability to meet work demands and participate in your family life, social activities, whilst maintaining your health. So really, what does this look like for you? Understanding that every person's going to have a different desire to how their work-life balance is going to look. So when we look at the balancing act, we need to analyze, what does your work-life balance look like? Now, taking into consideration that you will need to have allowances for shift work. We know that many people need to consider what your work schedule looks like and what your routine looks like within that work schedule. We know that your family activities and responsibilities need to be considered, but we also need to consider what your work expectations are. Are you expected to work 12-hour shifts, 14-hour shifts? Are you going to have 4 days on, 6 days off? We need to consider what that's going to look like and how to plan and implement different routines and schedules to allow for that work expectation. We also know that when you're working as a shift worker, particularly as a first responder, we really need to consider our physical health, that physical well-being, and that includes your physical activity, sleep, diet, the way that you manage stress, incorporating social activities so that we don't start isolating, and all of this kind of comes around this management of irregular times for work. So we actually have a lot of things to consider when balancing our lifestyle. So understanding that we actually need to consider what the impact of shift work does to the individual. which might help you implement and change your daily routines to ensure that you've got the best outcome both physically and psychologically, or embracing total well-being moving forwards with considerations of your shift work. We know that shift workers do not have the luxury of having the most regular sleep patterns. You're working consistently against your circadian rhythm, which is your natural sleep and wake cycle. We know that first responders who work shift work have poor sleep quality and also have at least 31% diagnosed with sleep disorders. We know that these sleep disorders include sleep apnea, insomnia, daytime sleepiness, as well as malaligned sleep deprivation. Now, these can cause a lot of complications and actually increase the risk of gut health complications. So this is where your gut starts to churn. You might get irritable bowel syndrome. We know that when people are also on shift, particularly at night shift, that the risk of having higher levels of fatty foods, salty foods, and also fast foods or convenience foods increases the risk of developing gut health issues. This then also leads to higher risks of heart disease. So we know that first responders are actually around 24% more likely to have heart disease. We also know that this includes stroke. It also includes fatal death syndrome, which is one of the largest causes of death on duty. We look at metabolic syndrome, and this is things like obesity, high blood pressure, high triglycerides, and overweight or high waist circumference, adipose weight or fat. And we know that you're 15% more likely to be diagnosed with a metabolic syndrome. This is usually linked to shift workers because they're highly sedentary when on long shifts, particularly at night. Now, I know that this is the exception when you're on duty and you're going out to a call or you're actually feeling quite busy in that time. However, overall, there is a higher level of sedentary time, and there's also a higher risk because of these sleep disorders that lead us to these health risks. We know that there is a really significant risk in that poor or low social networking, unless it's with your work colleagues. We also know that you can socially isolate. You don't feel up to going out to the events. We know that your shift work can actually interfere with going to social events because you'll be sleeping whilst everyone's out, and then you'll be working when everyone is sleeping. So we just need to consider what some changes might be or what we actually need to plan around when working shift. Also, every first responder experiences a high level of psychological distress. So being put in a high psychological distress workplace means that we need to put some protective factors in our routines and daily considerations moving forward. So what does it look like when creating a new or developing a new plan or creating a routine that looks balanced? Your key is planning and preparation. Now, a lot of people do not like to plan or be prepared, and they just want to experience life as it goes. However, when you're a first responder working shift work, you need to consider your shift schedules. Now, you will get these in at least 4 weeks in advance. Yes, I know that there can be slight changes, or you might be requested to work overtime or things like this. However, plan around your shift schedules. You will know when you're going from day shift to afternoon shift to night shift. You know if you're going to be working 10, 12, 14, 24 hours. You know what that's going to look like. You know how many days you've got on and how many days you've got off, and what your schedule looks like when you're going to have to shift into a later schedule or a later shift. So once you've got your work schedule, a key is to prioritize the things that you value. Now, this might be family, it might be work, it might be social outings, physical activity, sleep routine, your naps, what food you're going to have, or it might actually be including learning, education, downtime, reading, Whatever it is, you need to make sure that you integrate your priorities. By doing this, you can set aside time throughout the day or throughout your planning week and say, okay, family or friends, this is what my shift looks like. This is when I'm going to be going to the gym, I'm going to be food prepping, I would like to go out for breakfast or I'd like to go out for dinner. This is when we can do these things together. And this is when I'm going to need quiet time, and this is when I'm going to have more energy to do more activities. So planning around that shift schedule is going to be key, and communicating that with those support people around you is also going to help you identify what time you actually can allocate and dedicate to the things that you wish or need to do. So when you're planning, create schedules, create to-do lists. These are things that are going to help you iron out what you need to do or what you need to prioritize. I love to use goals. What are the things that you want to work towards? That might be this week, it might be in a month, you might have a triathlon or something that you want to work towards, and how you're going to schedule that in around work and family. Use a diary to plan your day. Now this can be online, this can be a big family diary or a daily, weekly schedule that you can write on the fridge and say, these are what I'm going to be doing, and this is how the family unit's going to be working, or this is how I can see myself working in this week. Prioritizing your time will help in being punctual. It will help with saying, I have this much time to complete a certain activity. And that way you know what to predict and what is going to happen in the future. And we called it this blocking or time chunking for your activities. By prioritizing the things that you want to do will also improve your daily well-being. And then you need to take actions on these tasks in your diary or your to-do list. We know that naturally shift workers are going to often have changing routines. So you can't always have that same 9 to 5 predictive routine that you're going to be doing. But with some planning, it is actually possible to create a rigidly flexible or flexibly rigid routine where you can do the activities that you like within the constraints or the working world of shift work. Now, what I would like to do is I'd like to jump into some more specific routine scheduling and planning for shift work. Physical activity is one of those things that goes by the wayside very quickly when our shift work starts to change. We know that we also don't prioritize physical activity when we feel overwhelmed or stressed. Now, one of the best things about physical activity is that it can be anything that is movement-based. We also know that there are a lot of programs coming out now that look at what is the most ideal time to be exercising or doing physical activity when on shift work. Now, understanding that your shifts do change times, which means that we can't always go to the gym or sign up to that OzTag team and be present there every week. However, if that is something that you'd like to do, then by all means explain your situation and you can sign up to these activities, and I'd encourage you to do that. But what does it actually look like when you're working in different shifts? So working out or being physically active around your roster, we encourage people to do 3 things. When you're on a day shift, we encourage you to do your heavier workouts. Now, this is if you're going to the gym, if you're doing a high intensity swim in the ocean, or something along those lines. We want you to do your heavy loaded days on your day shift days. Now, when you're in transition, you're going from your day shift to your night shift, we often encourage you to have your lighter intensity workouts then. Now, this doesn't have to be a gym workout. It can be something like going for a walk, listening to a really good podcast, and just increasing that level of movement that you do in day-to-day life. Now, these days are going to be your light intensity days, because your body is trying to shift from daytime to nighttime or nighttime to daytime. So your energy levels are actually going to probably be lower, and your body is not going to recover or have enough energy to do these higher medium intensity exercise programs. Now, on your night shift, as much as you may be extremely tired, we actually have a safer time or a more suitable time for your body to do this medium level of exercise. Now, this can be heavy weights, it can be slow paced tempo, but it's something that is medium in intensity. So you feel like you're working, but it's not extremely strenuous and it's not extremely light. Keep it short and sweet. We know that you can do minimum of blocks of 10 minutes or up to 30 to 45 minutes. That's going to get the exact same effect as if you're doing an hour and a half or 2-hour workout. If you can break it up into lots of 10 minutes, we know that if you do that 3 times a day, you're going to be meeting your daily activity requirements. But we also want you to just improve your general movement and encourage your brain to get more oxygen and to feel better in your day-to-day life. So by participating in different exercise programs or physical activity regimes whilst on shift work, we know that you can actually get all these benefits. Now, another tip is to try and exercise before your night shift. Now, this doesn't have to be a gold standard, but we know that your body's levels of energy is going to be a lot higher when you before you go into your night shift. We know that by doing physical activity before your night shift, it improves your oxygen levels, and it also helps manage your cortisol, which is your stress hormone, which can potentially allow your body to manage and deal with stressful situations on the job. It helps improve your concentration, so it tries to fight that fogginess or grogginess that you'll experience during your night shift. It helps increase metabolism. It helps your body to metabolize those things that you're doing at nighttime when usually your body's trying to sleep. And we know that it also helps prepare your nervous system. So this means that it is ready to react and be operationally prepared for what is it's about to face. We also know that there's significant mental health benefits or protective factors around psychological distress, depression, anxiety, and trauma. Now, there's another tip that I want to give to you is that if you exercise after your night shift, try not to exercise 90 minutes before bed. We know that if you're exercising under 90 minutes, your body's alertness is quite high. And it doesn't settle in time for your body to actually react and release its sleep hormones to get you into that nice deep sleep. So if you are going to exercise after work, it's been proven that yoga, light walks, or light aerobic exercise has been proven to be beneficial. Again, we do try to stay outside of that 90 minutes before going to bed. Looking at your nutrition. Now, this is going to be a key component about what you eat on your shift. We know that it can affect what your food and intake can affect this brain-gut axis. So the way that your gut talks to your brain and the way that your brain reacts to what gets put into its gut. So we know that what you eat has a big impact on your physical health, your energy levels, your mood, your cognition, as well as your work performance. So by having poor eating habits, we're at risk of getting heart disease or stroke, obesity, type 2 diabetes, some types of cancers, as well as it drives the risk of anxiety and depression up. So we know that eating well can help you lower those risks, and we can also increase your energy and feel well for the rest of your shift. So how do we actually do this? How do we eat well on shift? Your key is going to be meal planning. I know that many of you on night shifts or mid-afternoon late shifts don't pack your food and you go, oh, I'll be fine, I won't get hungry. But you've got those long shifts, long breaks between meals, And when you're on the road, that McDonald's sign starts to look extraordinarily tempting. So what we want to do is we want to make meal planning more engaging and more fun. So we need to set time to make sure that we can eat or prepare our food well. I will encourage you to do this with your family or make it a social event so it doesn't become such a chore that you hate and it takes up so much time of your day. I know from personal experience is that your slow cooker is going to be your best friend. When you're ready to go for a nap or a sleep, put your slow cooker on, and by the time you wake up, everything is going to be cooked. We also know that if you know what your shifts are, you can start to plan the meals that are included in that shift time. So if you're starting a night shift, you're going to pack things like sandwiches, a light snack, or breakfast. So your dinner is actually going to be the main meal that you eat before going on your night shift. And what does it look like when you're actually planning your meals? So before shift is when your main meal is going to be, your big, strong main meal that's going to carry you on throughout that long period of work. I'll encourage you to have a combination of low GI multigrains, fruit, veg, and protein. We know that this helps set metabolism and it can also help break the fast. So if that's at nighttime or at daytime, it doesn't matter. But whenever you are waking up, that's going to be your big main meal to set you up for the day. Please remember during shift snacks. We know that if you pack mid-meals, things like mid-sized meals, sandwiches, or semi-substantial foods, that's going to carry you out throughout the rest of your day without craving those heavy foods or fast convenient foods. So don't forget your snacks. Things like protein-based, low GI carbohydrates, nuts, eggs, Greek yogurt, nut bars, cheese and crackers, different types of meats, and chickpeas. If you aim to try and eat every 2 to 3 hours, we know that that can help get you over the cravings or the tired slumps where you're reaching for that Red Bull or that coffee. After your shift, have a small meal before bed. So this is what we call your light meal. For shift work, this is going to be breakfast. And you can also encourage to have meals with your family or with your colleagues when you can. This just helps eating and being social. Stay hydrated. We like to try and have at least 3 liters of water in a day and avoid too much caffeine because this can interfere with your sleep cycles. And that brings us into your sleep routine. Now, a lot of shift workers say there is no such thing as a sleep routine in shift work. Now, the biggest thing to remember is that you are going to know what your shift work looks like. And after a little while, you're going to figure out what routine or what sleep patterns work for you the best. The idea is to try and maintain a stable routine of sleep. Going to bed at different times won't necessarily work, but if you go to bed at similar times on your days off, this is going to help your body re-regulate its sleep patterns. We also know that following the same or similar bedtime routines for your nights and your day shifts will help your body recognize that it is trying to go into a sleep pattern. So this might be things like reading a book before having a shower, a warm shower or a cold shower, and then getting into bed and listening to a podcast. Things like this, if you do a regular sleep routine, your body starts to recognize, this is the signal for sleep. We also know that if you mimic your day shift and stay up for a few hours after your night shift, you'll actually improve that sleep cycle routine. So when you're on your day shift and you're going into your night shift, you want to slowly shift that sleep preparedness. Ideally, we want to be sleeping 7 to 9 hours per night. However, we know that your sleep may be interrupted, and we also know that you may not get that 7 to 9 hours sleep. So naps are actually going to become your friend. Ideally, you want to have naps that range in 20 to 30 minutes in duration or in 90-minute durations. This is because your adult sleep cycle works within that 90-minute to 120-minute range. So by doing that 20 to 30 minutes, it's like we call like a power nap or a cat nap. And then that 90-minute range is going to allow your body to go into a deeper sleep cycle, a bit more of a restorative cycle, but it hopefully doesn't make you wake up feeling groggy. We do recommend that if you have a post-night shift nap, to actually make sure that you do stick to this time. Otherwise, you might get 8 to 9 hours then, and your night shift nap is going to be thrown out of whack. So making sure that you actually keep to that time period is going to help you in the long run. Another thing to consider is what we call shift preparation. And this is the ideal of changing your circadian rhythm or preparing your circadian rhythm for that change from day shift to night shift. What we want to do is we either want to delay or bring forward that sleep time to assist you into going into that new routine. So by delaying your sleep, you're going to allow yourself to shift into your daytime or your nighttime routines. And that's the same as by bringing it forward. So if you know that you're going to change shifts soon, we encourage you to do this 3 to 4 days out. I know that ideally this is not going to meet everyone's expectations or needs for day-to-day working. However, if you do have the time to shift it by 2 to 3 hours, that in preparation for your new shift, this is going to allow your body to slip into different circadian rhythms quicker. So when we plan to go to sleep, we want to consider what your bedroom environment looks like. Your environment and the temperature ideally wants to be set around 16.5 to 20 degrees Celsius. This allows your body's temperature to stay cool whilst internally staying warm underneath your sheets. We also know that noise is going to be impacting you. So if you need to wear noise cancelling headphones because you're working night shift and you're trying to sleep during the day, we also know that if you want to play white noise throughout the day or the night, can actually help your brain decrease stimulation and it helps you fall asleep quicker. And if you need to wear earplugs or headphones, again, that's totally okay. It's about creating an environment that's going to allow you to relax and to sleep throughout whatever time of day it is that you need to sleep. And also your light exposure is going to have a very big play on your sleep. Your body's natural circadian rhythms relates to that of your daytime and nighttime. So when the day is coming, we know that your body starts to wake up, it starts to turn on all of its internal systems to make you more alert, more energy, and to function at a high rate. When the sun goes down, we know that your body starts to go into its sleep mode. So if you're working night shift and you need to be sleeping throughout the day, we actually need to change your exposure to light and dark. So there are things like when you're coming out of your night shift, to wear sunglasses on the way home, to expose yourself to as minimal amount of light as possible, and to create a blackened sensation at home. So have sunlight blocking curtains, wear a night mask, an eye mask, so that you can have this limited exposure to light. However, there is also the reverse. If you're working at night but you're waking up at night, then you need to expose yourself to light time so that your body starts to know that it is light and it needs to be awake. So light boxes can actually help you return to that daytime cycle where you start to expose yourself to light earlier on throughout your shift so that your body can sleep throughout the night time in its next cycle. And the last thing to consider around sleep is sleep preparation. Now, I know that I've touched on this slightly, but creating a sleep routine is ideal for whatever shift you're going to do. So if you're going to bed, creating that sleep routine that's going to allow yourself to drift off to sleep faster It's going to be determined by the things that your body likes. So screen time is one of the biggest no-nos around shift work and going to bed. Blue light affects your melatonin, which is the hormone responsible for sleep. We do know that blue light actually stimulates you. So if you're trying to go to sleep, try and avoid this about 30 minutes or more before going to bed. If you do have to stay reading or something through before you go to bed, try not to use your phone. Have a wind down routine. Now, this might look like meditation, a warm bath. Yoga Nidra has actually seen a lot of studies come out where it says that it helps reduce that stimulatory body response and it allows this calm to take over. It prepares your body for relaxation and it prepares your body for sleep. We know that mindfulness can also help bring grounding as well as calm to the body to allow it to sleep. And sometimes people like to have a warm drink, but preferably not caffeinated, as that's going to keep you awake. Like I've mentioned before, trying to avoid exercise 90 minutes before bed will help your body to calm down and potentially utilize some of that stress or adrenaline that's risen up throughout the day. We also know that if you wake up throughout your sleep cycle and you're trying to go back to sleep but it's not working, that you actually need to remove yourself from your bed and rewire the relationship that bed is for sleeping, not for laying around, staying awake and scrolling on your phone. So if this is the case and you wake up and you can't go back to sleep, get out of your bed, stay in a dark area, and try 20 minutes of relaxation. Now you can download some Calm apps, you can download Wise Mind apps, you can download a whole bunch of things that teach you relaxation or sleep meditation exercises, and then take yourself back to bed because your body's going to go through a little sleep cycle, and hopefully by doing these practices of calming yourself down or meditation can allow yourself to go back to sleep. Now, if you do need sleep help, please go and see a doctor and they may be able to prescribe you some medications that actually help you go through that sleep pattern, that sleep cycle. Another really important thing is to remember is that you actually do need to stay connected, socially connected to people either at your workforce, in your family, or in your community. This is going to be one of the biggest protective elements against mental illness. We know that you work long hours as a first responder, weird times, you have poor sleep, experience high stress, and all of these can become barriers to maintaining social engagement with your family or with your community. So some of the things that we want to consider are potentially who have similar work schedules. Are you actually able to hang out with those people? Do you enjoy spending more time with these people doing non-work related activities? Can you plan ahead with your rostering? Can you say, hey, John, I'm free on the 21st at lunchtime or at dinner. I'd like to book in something then. Finding that common time that's free is going to help you and make you look forward to doing something as in a social environment. We know that communication is key, particularly with your family or your support networks. And by keeping an open form of communication is going to help you actually stay connected to these people and grow that bond. This also links into your quality time, and remember to do things that you enjoy. It's also very important to make sure that you rest and restore. And I always encourage you to keep planning vacations because they're always fun, and it doesn't matter what kind of vacation, if it's a staycation or something overseas, we all need time to recharge and avoid burnout. So what does it look like with planning family time? Plan time with your partner. Now, this is important if you don't have a partner, but you have some really close friends. It's the same thing. Plan nights out or plan date days or date nights or event days and event nights where you actually spend quality time with people who you care about. Try and improve that level of communication or the time that you talk that is uninterrupted. So not interrupted by work calls, it's not interrupted by children, but it's really having that genuine conversation and time with that person. Alike, we also need to allocate time with kids, your children, or family. I'll always encourage you to play, learn, and grow. And also, if you're trying to balance those duties or responsibilities at home, remember to have that open line of communication, which is going to help you allocate or manage different workloads that you need to do around the house or with children. So we also know that we need to take time for ourselves, for our own personal self-care. So what are some of the things that you're going to allocate time to actually help you decompress and manage some of those stressful situations that you experience at work? We know that this might look like meditation, practicing some mindfulness, engaging in exercise, physical activity, or sports and activities. We know that self-care can look like many different things, and if that's having a long bath, then so be it. If it's reading and taking a walk, then so be it. But we wanted to avoid alcohol and drugs because we know that this actually can lead to an increased base level of stress and anxiety in the body. We want to encourage you to talk to your work colleagues, talk to your support people, talk to your family, let them in and know how you're going. Listen to music, continually learn and stay educated, sleep well, and start to engage in activities that you are willing to do that drive that passion forward. So do things for yourself that will help you manage your stress and allow yourself to decompress of the day that you've just done. Now what we want to look at is a little activity that helps analyze your work-life balance and helps you consider some of the activities that you want to prioritize when you're on shift work. Now this thing is called the Wheel of Wellbeing. What we want to do is we want to look at these domains of life. Now that includes emotional, occupational, intellectual, environmental, financial, social, physical, and spiritual. Now, evaluating your current lifestyle and behaviors looks like what do you need to prioritize, or what are you currently prioritizing and it feels like it's out of balance, or what do I need to invest in more to help me round out my well-being? What we'll get you to do is to look at this and give yourself a rating from 0 to 10. Now, what you can do is you can score yourself. So I might say, emotionally, I'm feeling quite stable. I've got a lot of supports, so I might rate myself at an 8. However, occupationally, I'm struggling at work a little bit. I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed, and I'm looking to leave the service because of certain circumstances, and I might rate myself at a 4. So what you can do is you can do this for each sector, and you'll find yourself rating highly in some, low in others. And this might just take a little bit of time to reflect on what applications you're going to do to help either balance this out, or maybe you actually need to reevaluate what your lifestyle looks like and where you're going to prioritize your time again. So spend a little bit of time looking at what you're going to do in these areas and how you can actually help rebalance those lifestyles and implement that within your work-life balance. So here are some questions that I want you to reflect on. What is currently working in your lifestyle, in your routines, that is keeping your work-life balance balanced, or are you out of balance and you need to actually look at that? Look at what is not currently working. Do you feel like your routines are balanced, or are they not balanced, and what do you need to change within that? Am I able to keep up with my responsibilities? Am I still socializing? And what does my health look like? What is my mind looking like? Am I stressed? Am I unable to think? And also, what has worked in the past? When I have felt this way, or when I have felt unbalanced, What are some of the things that have helped me draw that balance back into check? And what supports do I have, or what supports do I need? So I would like to leave you with some of these things. What does your work-life balance look like for shift work? Are you prioritizing your health and well-being? And are you creating regular routines that are flexibly rigid to change with your shift work? Are you maintaining connection during this process? So I wish you all the best. Remember to plan, stay connected, and stay physically active with good nutrition. Sleep well as you can. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at Fordham Australia. Otherwise, good luck with balancing your work-life balance in shift work. Enjoy.